He's got a hat. A couple of years ago, I was up in the northeast, in a fishing town, for a Whit Monday conference. It was the Whit Sunday. They had the breaking of bread in the afternoon, and when it was over, the dear brother, who was rather deadpan, gave out the notices. And this is the notice he gave out, and Mr. Jolly was sitting next to me and heard it. He said, "The meeting for cutting up sisters." Whereupon Mrs. Jolly and Mrs. Bolton began to go up and down. And so did the fall. Well, we were staying with the brother who said it, and when I got home, I began to gently pull his leg, but he didn't want to know. So I had to back off. The very first time I went to a certain town in the northwest of England where I lost a lot of things, including my heart, I went to a place to preach. It was called Island Road Mission. Strange place, it's still there. And there was a funny old man in the congregation, and he wore a smoking helmet with a tassel. And I thought, this is a strange place. I've never seen brethren with hats, smoking helmets, and everything. I was brought up in a meeting where they taught us that men should wear their hats to the meeting so they could take them off when you got there. I never quite saw the point of that. But this chap, he came in and he sat in the meeting with his smoking hat on. In mauve and silver tassels and all very beautiful. And so I preached, and I was new to this sort of thing, and they didn't understand what I was talking about with my South Country lingo, and I didn't understand too much what they said. But he came up to me afterwards very belligerently, and I wondered what was going to happen, and he said to me, "You're all right tonight. If you hadn't been, I should have told you." I took some little courage from that. Many years afterwards, when I had a mother-in-law in the town, I went up one night on the night sleeper and came off the station at about 5:20 in the morning, and that town is something at 5:20 in the morning, I can tell you. And I stood by a bus stop, waiting for the first bus to take me to my mother-in-law's house, where I might get some breakfast. And a man came up with his clogs and his tin. He too was on the first bus. And he looked at me up and down and he said, "Up for shipyard?" I said, "No." He said, "Thought you was, you got your hat on." For the uninformed, foremen in Barrow Shipyard wear hard hats. But I wasn't one. Some time before that, I preached in the meeting in Barrow, and the meeting then in those days was a place where they had a very high pulpit. It was called the box. And you clambered up into this box, and you held forth. And on this particular occasion, I can't understand why, but at one moment as I was reaching a climax in my sermon, I just caught with my eye the glint of my denture describing a graceful arm. They tell me if you're drowning or something like that, that all your life flashes. That's really what happened to me. It was solutions that were flashing before me as to what should be done to treat the situation. And in those split seconds, I really came to the end of all my solutions. So I thought, I'll carry on. Then you see how sometimes we get guided in these matters. I sort of went straight down the floor and put my hand right on them and carried on from there. But to this day, I have never lived that story down. It's a very true story. But I always had one over them up there. They are, again, a fairly careful meeting. And things are done in a proper way. And they get very cross with me because I always remind them when I go there that they are the only meeting in the country that I know where it says, as you go in, please do not throw your cigarette ends over the banister. Now, one or two very strange men there, too, at least they were then. They've gone now somewhere. One was a very small man with little tiny glasses he always had on the end of his nose, and the most enormous Bible you ever saw in your life. And one day at the Good Friday conference, it was what they call an open conference. Quite what it was open to, I suppose. Very solemnly, he got tiptoe and opened this huge Bible and said, I want to speak to you on the linen ephod. But not all strange things have happened to me in the north of England. Some in the south. For example, the very first Christian conference I ever went to was in a little village called Thorpe. And it was again an open conference where a lot of people came together who wanted to have their say about things. And they had their say. Quite what it was all about, most of us didn't know. But I always remember on this occasion, there was a man who got up and for 20 minutes he addressed us on the subject of Nahum and the leopard. After 20 minutes, a voice in the back said, leopard, brother, leopard, for goodness sake. The next conference I went to was at a Thames Valley town, which had better be nameless, and I got landed at tea. You know what assembly teas used to be like in the old days. Most of you wouldn't know, but some of the older ones would. I was only about 15 at the time, and young and silly, and I was there with a girlfriend. I don't tell my wife about that. I was there with a girlfriend, and I got sandwiched between two very, very ancient ladies, the kind of which used to be in meetings in my early days. And they insisted at tea time in carrying on a conversation with each other by crossed ear trumpets. And my then girlfriend enjoyed the joke eventually, sitting opposite. There was another place locally where, when I was about 17 and I just started preaching, I was a very earnest young man, as all young men at that age are, and a very dramatic preacher, a great master of the book of Revelation, of course, and future events. And I remember going to this little mission hall, which Mr. Stokes would know, New Road, Egham, and preaching on the 31st of March, 1936, on the subject of the last day. Thought this was most appropriate. And I think there were about sort of 6 in the congregation, and it was a tin cathedral and so forth. I'm just working up to the great crescendo. The last day. What is that in store for you? And stepped smartly backwards and disappeared. Amongst tears, buckets. The man came hobbling through and he said, "Are you hurt, brother?" I hurt. There was another local meeting, Camberley in Surrey, Victoria Hall, where I always have dropped all my bricks, always. On this particular occasion, it was the brick of all bricks. I was trying to comment, merely as a sort of an aside, at a ministry meeting